So that is that. Here's the topic at the moment. So there's a lot of trade banter floating around. And welcome back. It's Grant Danny here on The Fan. Toby in for GP. There's a lot of trade banter, oot and a boot here, Tobes. And one of the things that I'm always hoping for, and it's always unrealistic, right? But I'm always hoping for, hey, what if they took a player back and considered it part of the compensation that I'm not really that excited about having anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the dream, right? Where it's like, take the guy on the expiring deal or the persona non grata.
The thing you do in Madden, you throw the dude in that you don't want. And
One of my best buddies in the world, we can't play fantasy sports together anymore because he wears you down with trade offers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like he'll be like, just, take like Rudy Johnson and like three other guys just for LaDainian Tomlinson. I'm like, no, I'm not doing any of that. I don't want any of these guys.
He's telling you how great they are while he's trying to get rid of them.
Yes, like I wouldn't pick these guys up via the waiver wire, let alone trade away from my best player. Anyway, so Myles Garrett may or may not be available. Cleveland has said no, but again, there's still buzz around there. He wants to leave. Think of T. Higgins with the sign and trade via the franchise tag. Think of who knows what's Trey Hendrickson. There's a million players. Deebo Samuel's coming up, where maybe via the right price. Let's just say that the other team goes, for the sake of argument, to you, Tobes. Toby Peters. We love Daron Payne. We love him. We want him as part of the deal, and it'll save you the pick sweetener on the back end. You don't have to give us a second, and we'll take Daron Payne from you. Right? That could be part of a deal. And so it got us to thinking, who's on your list of you can't have that guy? Who's on your list, and how big is your list? And this is kind of getting me to an interesting point. I want to hear from you first, but 800-636-1067 is the number. 800-636-1067. Who's on your MC Hammer list? Who's on your can't touch list? Thank you very much.
I think there's only, and this speaks to how good of a job the coaching staff and the players maximizing their ability did this year. I think there's only like 4 guys for me. I think there's only 4. Jaden's obviously at the top of that list.
Sure.
I think we all understand that. Terry would be on the list. I think that's understandable. And then there's been 2 dudes that I've seen various people throw around the potential Myles Garrett trades that I would immediately say no on, and I would throw in an extra pick so I could keep them. Frankie Louvu is unavailable to me. He's a chess piece. He's a Micah Parsons style player without the Micah Parsons baggage and without the Micah Parsons price tag. And he's a great leader in that locker room. So to me, Frankie Louvu is untouchable. I've seen people float him around for Myles Garrett. I'll throw you another pick. I'm keeping Frankie Louvu because I think he's that impactful. He was a second-team All-Pro this year. Really, really good player. He's untouchable to me. And then the next one would be Mikey Sanders still. I've seen people throw his name around. He's not available to me. He looks like he could be a legit corner, and whether he ends up outside, which I think they're going to kick him back inside, but I thought he played reasonably well outside this year. Regardless, when you get a guy like that, especially as a second rounder with a price tag, he's not available. He looks like he could be a legit nickel defender for a long time. A guy like a Mike Hilton or someone like that who's impactful for that Bengals defense for a long time. I think he can play that sort of role, or he can be your number 2 corner for a long time. You've got 3 more years of cheap play from him. He's not available to me. So that kind of is the list for me. Like, you look at, we talked about Payne and Allen yesterday. I'll part with either or both of them. You look at some of the other impactful players. I don't know that you can't have that guy for Myles Garrett. To me, it's only 4 dudes that I'm saying, if you're saying, give me the best player available, which would be Myles Garrett, I'll throw in an extra pick. I'm keeping these 4 guys.
800-636-1067. That's Toby's list. Okay. So, all right. I've got a pretty significant list here as I was starting to think about it.
Interesting.
Okay. Here we go. You ready? Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin. That's the end of my list. And I tell you what, I love little Terry as much as the next guy. I don't know what scenario would happen, but if somebody said, like, for sake of argument, let's say Minnesota, the craziest thing in the world happens. They go, we're actually going to move Justin Jefferson. They wouldn't, but bear with me. Well, we could do it for, I don't know, a few next year's one and Terry McLaurin, so we have someone to build around and help us in the next couple of years transition to this new regime or something for Justin Jefferson. Okay. Like, I love Terry. But to say, like, there is nobody right now in the league where I would go, yeah, you can have Jaden Daniels.
Correct.
Right? I mean, even the best that are doing it, I would not trade him for anybody. Which says something, right? For McLaurin, to say he's untradeable, any realistic scenario, no, he's not tradable. But it's not if, like, I don't know, I got to make up a name. If Calvin Ridley's available, then no, pound sand. You're not having Terry McLaurin. But if Jamar Chase is, He wouldn't be, but if he was, right? Or I don't know, you could if CeeDee Lamb or AJ Brown, maybe AJ Brown. But you see my point. So very few scenarios. But I'll say for realistic scenarios, McLaurin's untradeable. That's my list. I like all the guys you mentioned. I love Bobby Wagner. I love Dante Fowler, what he did. He's a free agent. But Frankie Luvu was awesome. Nobody here outside of those two guys to me is untradeable. Knowing with kind of the full-fledged understanding, if I'm going to get better, I have to do a couple of things. I may have to give something that hurts. People should treat it as painful to give up that first rounder, painful to give up that second rounder, but you got to give to get. Number two, I've got to trust the brain trust to go, I'll find the next Luvu. It's not like Frankie Luvu signed for $25 million a year, right? The film was available to anybody. They saw him in Carolina for a dreadful team, floundering, going nowhere, and that guy played really, really well in this Swiss Army knife role, and they had him come up and do the same. To me, the premium position guys, like, depends on your city, depends on your team, depends on your guy. But if I've got a great left tackle, it's going to take an awful lot for him to move for me. See Trent Williams going to San Francisco and having a bunch of great years afterwards.
Yeah.
It would take the craziest set of circumstances to happen, and that's what happened. I'm not moving off a superstar receiver that's really good and a good citizen, not complaining and kvetching and moaning all the time. And I'm certainly not moving my great quarterback. Other than that, if we had an alpha superstar corner, Sauce Gardner, you'd be hard-pressed to have him included in deal. You'd be hard-pressed to include a great defensive end like a Myles Garrett, right, under contract in this
Sure.
time. Other than that, I got to find my next Luvu. And if I can't, I'll just find a dependable stay-at-home linebacker as I built 4 werewolves up front to go get the quarterback. Like, to me, that's easier to find than one of the superstars at a premium position. If that's what I'm getting in return, everybody's on the table. It would suck to trade Frankie Luvu away. I would not like it. I wouldn't be happy about it. Some way, it would suck to get rid of a second rounder. It would stink on ice to trade away a first-round pick for one of these dudes. Again, I don't think most are worth it. Garrett would be. And that should be painful because you're acquiring somebody so special.
Correct. But it's so hard, and maybe the better exercise here with this too, Danny, is who has value. Like, which of these guys has value in trade? Because I say take Luvu and Sanders still off the board. If I'm the Cleveland Browns and I'm saying, okay, I want a 1, and Washington says, I'm not giving you 2 1s, right? I'll give you a 1 and a 3 and a player. Which player am I asking for? I'm probably asking for Sanders still. Mm-hmm. I'm probably asking for Luvu. Do I really want Deron Payne? Do I really want John Allen? Maybe Brandon Coleman would have some trade value. Is someone really that excited about Luke McCaffrey? No one's really that excited about Ben Sinnott. I mean, you look through this team, again, it's a credit to what they were able to accomplish this season. It's not like there's a ton of guys that everyone around the league's like, you know what? We need Noah Brown back. We need De'Ami Brown. Like, I know those guys are free agents, but like, there's not a ton. And so maybe to your point, Jaden's untouchable. We know that. Terry, in just about every circumstance, is untouchable. But if you really want to go get your guy, you don't have other dudes with value. You might have to trade one of those dudes on the defensive side.
So this is such a good point here that you're making. And Grant and I have argued about this a bunch. He thinks the roster is more talented than I do. I look at what you just said, and this is kind of my whole point here, is punch above your weight class doesn't begin to cover it. What they just did with guys that nobody else wanted, playing key roles, not the special team Sammy, not your Michael Walker, not Alan George or Andre Jones Jr. as a rotational defensive end, but starters. No one really was that interested in Cleveland Farrell, Dorrance Armstrong, not Bobby Wagner, Dante Fowler. Dante Fowler signed for less money than Tress Way. Like, they just did this with readily available players Zach Ertz was basically out of football. Anybody could have signed him. And Washington was like, here's something. Fine. Huge down the stretch for them. Getting them into the postseason. Getting them into the damn conference championship game. You already mentioned Noah Brown was cut by the aforementioned Houston Texans. De'Ami Brown has been available.
Well,
if anybody had offered anything over the last 4 years for De'Ami Brown, the answer may or may not have been yes, because Ron drafted him. But you know what I mean? The point is, you're willing to give us something for that guy? You guys are going to give us something for De'Ami Brown. Oh, yeah, we need a lot. Yeah, if you just come pick him up, it's yours. It's like a TV when you're moving. That won't fit in your new apartment.
Yeah. Buy us dinner one time, you can have it.
Yes. Just if you have something that can haul away my couch that had dust mites in it or something. Alama Zacchaeus. I mean, I could go on. They just did that with that.
Well, and that goes back to our other point, what we talked about earlier. This is why you have to upgrade this roster. Like,
yes.
you like the guys, what they were able to do. Is Dante Fowler going to have another double-digit sack season? Maybe. Probably not. Like, I'm not going to count on it. Is Zach Ertz going to come back and do what he did this year? Maybe. Probably not. You can do that with just about everybody on the roster. And I saw a report today that Jeremy Chin maybe is the most likely of the one-year guys to come back. That's fine. But, like, I don't know that a lot of these guys are going to be able to do it. So you have to improve. And so that's through the draft, that's through free agency, and that's finding guys in smart ways to improve. And so I think, maybe you have to include one of these dudes on the defensive side. I think Quan Martin maybe is someone that someone would be interested in. But again, are you moving off people that you really are trying to build around? Maybe Sam Cosmi, but he's hurt. Like, I don't know that this team has a lot of value for guys in trades, so it's going to end up being draft picks, and then you have to decide if you're Adam Peters or, like we talked about, realistically, you've got a 5-year window. You're in year 2. It's really easy coming off an NFC Championship game appearance to say, let's go, baby. We're all in right now, versus what happens if, okay, I trade my pick this year, next year, the next year, and all of a sudden, maybe we're not playing up to our standard, and we need to improve some places, and we don't have the draft capital anymore, and we've spent a lot in free agency, and that guy didn't pan out. So you have to be smart with these things where we're reactionary saying, let's go all in year 2. Maybe you have to be a little more smart going into this season and looking ahead.
You can't pluck away too many culture guys.
Yes.
And kind of keep it going. You have to switch out some, and some are going to be gone regardless whether you want them to or not. Let's go to Vinny in Sea Pleasant, line 1. Who's on your untouchable list, bud?
What's going on, fellas? How you feeling? I'm going to state the obvious. I'm going to go the easy route. It's got to be JD5 and Terry. I'm not going to give you a full list, but why would you give up your franchise quarterback, period? That's just
right.
Idiotic.
Done and done. Yeah, move on from there.
Yeah. That's not it. And Terry, why would you give up the only person basically for real on this team who production increases or elevates every season? That doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So, you can't touch Primetime 5, and you can't touch Scary Terry, not even a little bit. This is not a democracy, it's a footballocracy, and we're going to keep it rolling. Appreciate y'all, man.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it, dude.
By the way, those two, I think, are the most important to the culture. Obviously, Jaden, we understand that with the talent, but I think he's obviously big, and I don't think Terry can go anywhere in terms of he might be the biggest dude in this organization outside of Jaden. Might be the biggest dude in this organization still with Jaden right now. So those two, to me, are the big culture guys as well.
Edwin in Virginia, line 2. Who's on your untouchable list in a trade?
Hey, Danny.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, guest host. Look, I'm a big fan of you guys, man. Even when you were in so-called North Bethesda, I came out to see you guys. I'm a big fan. Been a big fan for years.
Appreciate you.
But I feel like you guys have had this thing where you kind of disrespect Terry low key, man. Because I remember the second, like week 2 or week 3, you did this bit with Grant, where you were naming all these wide receivers that you could rather have over him, and you named like maybe 8 people I've heard of, and then you went up to like 20 people or something, and I didn't like it at all. And to say that you would trade him, he's our captain, he's untradeable. I don't care how good Justin Jefferson is, Terry's just as good, and he's a leader on this team. He has a lot of clout on this team. He's the kind of guy you need to have if we're supposed to build something, if we're supposed to become a champion. I mean, he's more than just he's a great producer, but he's more than just his production.
I hear that. Edwin, let me ask you this super quick. Would you rather have Jamar Chase or Terry McLaurin?
I'd rather have Terry McLaurin. I'd rather have Terry McLaurin than Jamar Chase.
Appreciate you, bud. So I understand that. You love Terry McLaurin. And this sounds like I'm ripping Terry McLaurin. I am not. When Terry McLaurin goes for 127 catches, 1,708 yards, and 17 touchdowns in a season, that's what Jamar Chase just did.
Yes.
I'll be there clapping like a seal. I'll also be in line for hell freezing over. I don't think that's the thing. And that's okay. I don't get mad at people for being really good. You see what I'm saying? Like, he's really good. It's okay to not be one of the 2 or 3 best receivers in the sport. I see your point, though.
To your point, Anthony Davis wasn't available until they called about Luka Doncic, right? Like, I'm not trading Terry unless they say, you know what? One of those dudes is available.
Right.
Like, he's not available until he is because of one of those guys.
Yeah, so, what I was doing, Edwin, and I appreciate the kind words. I'm not trying to rip you. The point of the dude's story here is to say, when I say untradeable, it's like a must-win. I go, well, not technically a must-win, but they better win it.
Yes.
It's sort of the same definition. There is a scenario that I would trade Terry McLaurin. It's not likely, and it's never happening.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost not worth talking about. So then by that sort of expand the definition, he's not tradable to me. That's my list, is Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin. Because there are quite literally is nobody that I would trade. If somebody called me about Mahomes for Jaden Daniels, I don't think I would do it.
No.
Right now. Because I got 4 years of the rookie deal, and Mahomes is the best in the world. I'm still not switching. Like, give me Jaden Daniels. I would swap McLaurin, as good as a dude as he is, and as awesome as he is, and as important as he is to this organization, for a handful of guys. That's it. That's not happening.
Yeah.
So to me, he's untradeable.
Yeah, I mean, Jaden is available for 0 players in the National Football League. Terry is available for like 3. And that's it.
Right.
And those three dudes are not available and will never be available. So it's not worth our time. It's not worth us discussing. So there's no one down on Terry. And I think to our point on this is those two are kind of the guys. You look at everyone else, the guys that are valuable, the guys that people would want. Maybe you have to consider those if you're going after the big names that might become available, because we're just early in the offseason. Myles Garrett's available. That's the big name, or at least he wants to be available. Maybe the Browns aren't shopping him. Who else could come up? We just learned about Jermaine Pratt. I know he's not a huge name, but he was the leading tackler for the Bengals this year. Who else could come up down the line if one of these big-time dudes comes available? Maybe you have to move off some of these guys. More than likely, it's not going to be someone big enough that you include Terry McLaurin.
I want to try to slide a slightly different angle into this when we come back. 800-636-1067. Who's on your untouchable list? I'd rather move on from a player than a draft pick guy. Now, once I get into the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round, whatever, take them. We're going to reacquire. We'll do there'll be some comp picks. I mean, these guys are smart enough to manipulate this thing. So I would rather move on from a guy, for example, that's good for me than a draft pick. I want to get your angle on that and see if you guys feel the same way. 800-636-1067. Who's on your untouchable list for Washington in a trade?